you met Kerry in Atlanta, but...
Do you want to hear how I met him?
Yeah, that would be... I'd love to hear that.
All right. So I had been in Atlanta in Little 5 Points, and I met this guy. He was the figurehead of Little 5 Points.
Yeah.
He would stand there, and he would ring his bell, and he would burn his sage, and he was just... Anybody who's kind of a counterculture figure, he'd figure out, like, okay, you need to meet him, and you need to meet them, and all that. And so we were friends when I would go to visit, and he was telling me about Kerry Thornley, and showing me these broadsheets that he had put up, and I would read them, and they were just great political activism mixed with absurd, just wild craziness, and so I wanted to meet him, and I thought, I want to come back to Atlanta so I can spend time with Kerry Thornley. And he was, I guess, around 60 or something like that, in his 60s. And so then later I ended up going to Atlanta. I thought I was going to be there just for a weekend, and my van broke down. And so in Little 5 Points, so I had to find a place to live. And I was reading the Illuminatus trilogy that was dedicated to Kerry. I stayed with that guy that I mentioned. His friend, Wilson Leary, Timothy Leary's cousin, came by. He and I started dating. Right? So I've got all these things, like, in the world of Kerry Thornley. Like, Kerry Thornley. And so I was trying to figure out where I was going to live, and this guy, he just came up to me in Little 5 Points and said, you know, how you doing? And I don't know, I'm looking for a place to live. Well, you live with me. We got a porch. And so I checked out this house, and they've got a big porch, and I moved in. It was really wild, artistic kind of a place. And then come to find out that Kerry Thornley lived there in this little mother-in-law right in the back. So I went there looking for Kerry Thornley, moved in next to him without even knowing it.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you actually met him?
Yeah, I met him coming out of my room. It's like, there's Kerry Thornley. Or Omar Khayyam Ravenhurst.
Yeah. And what did you two talk about when you first met?
Oh, I probably was just kind of squealing to have met him and telling him how glad I was, and I think I remember him just like doing this great laugh. I loved his laugh, and it was unlike anybody else's. Wouldn't even try to imitate it.
Yeah.
But he had 13 cats or something like that, some huge number of cats, and so he'd always be out calling them all the time. He was just this really sweet little cat man, and son of a Nazi. It was such an odd combination. And my life, I always run into these kind of MKUltra kind of people, which is a little scary sometimes that happens, and that's what he was, he said, and so it pulled me to ask him a lot more questions, and I even recorded a cassette that I need to get to the public, but I also was a little bit uneasy about that too. You know, like how much more involved was it going to make me, and how much was I being watched? And so then it became, you know, like the Illuminatus trilogy, even more like living inside of it, and black helicopters are going over and all the time, and like, just like becoming more and more like their books.
Yeah. So Kerry talked about you're saying that they were flying helicopters over his house. That was in Atlanta where you were.
Yeah, they were doing it a lot. They would even, you know, follow me around.
Yeah.
At that point, and he was, you know, some people called him paranoid, but I didn't really notice that he was. I don't consider myself paranoid, and he seemed relatively to know what he was talking about. Mm. So people always think he was just making up these stories in his head about how he was controlled by the mind controllers and stuff, but that might have been. Mm.
I'm guessing you'd come across Discordia before you met him through Robert Anton Wilson?
I think I came across it really through that friend in Atlanta. That was the first time.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of like, what would you call them? The counterculture.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Connection.
Yeah. The icon.
Yeah, and they spoke to you about what Discordia was, like in the context of Kerry Thornley, or?
Yeah. Uh-huh. But I feel like, in a lot of ways, it fits me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really want to tie myself in any kind of fashion to these gods and goddesses throughout history, but I don't think they do either. They're just like acknowledging, okay, that this has been here all this time, and putting space in between them and letting them just collage and fly around and do whatever they want. And so I'm all for that. Just not saying, okay, I'm in eternal opposition to the Bavarian Illuminati, like the Discordianism. But to say, yeah, of course I am, but, let's just give it a little chaos dusting.
And you'd done rituals, I assume you'd done rituals before you did the Discordian ritual with Kerry?
Well, I'd never done Discordian rituals before. I'd done, my own little cult like that.
Yeah.
Right? But with the Discordian ritual, he said the beauty of Discordianism was you didn't ever have to see any other Discordianists. And so there were no rituals. And so to fly in the face of that then and give it a little chaotic shuffle, then it's like, okay, well, I told him we got to do a ritual then. And so he thought that was a great idea. And so I went and I got a stick of butter, and I molded it into the shape of Eris, the goddess. And I put it on the floor, and so we said something over it, this is our ritual, and then his cats, 13 or so cats, they all came and they positioned themselves around the butter. So there was no space between them. They were all just like jammed into where their tongues were right on the butter. And they all just started scooting around in a circle all at the same time. So you had this circling cat thing around Eris, licking it until it was gone. While Kerry and I were just, laughing, I'm sure. And so that was the core moment that I remember about that ritual. And his cats after that, they walked off, but kind of continuing to circle around and just kind of, oh, okay, and wobble off to the edges.
Did you spend much time with Kerry after that?
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time with him. I spent a lot of time with him when I lived in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Because I was there a couple of years or something like that in Atlanta, and so we were really good friends. I think I probably spent as much time with him over those years as anybody else did. He didn't really have a lot of people come by.
Yeah.
And other people in the house didn't really go to just see him that much, but we were just buddies. We hung out, and so I just deeply love Kerry. I just don't necessarily agree with some of his politics, like kill Kennedy, but yeah, I really like Kerry a lot. And I felt like his writing with Eris, she had a lot to do with the stories had to do with his feeling like he inadvertently killed Kennedy, by suggesting that Oswald would be a patsy, or somebody like Oswald would be a patsy. And I think really they were just, people at the time, they were just trying to find people who had those feelings and call them out. And they weren't really going to act on it necessarily, but who knows, it's one layer after another. It was so complex at that time. And I'd like to recommend this book, Me and Lee, How I Came to Know, Love, and Lose Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
Yeah. Kerry even shows up in here in a surprising way that I won't reveal.